Hi everybody, this is Doug Keller with YogaU, bringing you a short tutorial on working with the four corners of the feet, which are principles that you can bring into actions in the poses, particularly to improve the arches of the feet and to work with some of the problems that we encounter in the feet. Just to take a look at the foot for a moment to talk about what the four corners are. First of all, the corners are the mound of the big toe, mound of the little toe, inner heel, and outer heel. Any part of the foot can move around, causing different kinds of collapses in the foot. So we want to stabilize these corners and start to work with strengthening the arches around the foot. There's one arch that we're mostly familiar with being the inner or medial arch of the foot right here. And when it tends to be weak, the arch collapses down, which causes a rotation in the shin and the knee, leading to a lot of problems in the ankle, knee, as well as the hip. What's less often known is there's actually an arch to the outer edge of the foot too. You can't quite see it because of the flesh there, but between little toe and outer heel, there's also a little bridge built by the bones, and you have muscles running from the sole of the foot up through the outer calf, actually creating a kind of racing stripe of muscle along the outer edge of the leg. It's now called the fibularis muscles that run up to stabilize the outer knee and connect to the actions of the outer hips. That's a second arch. Got inner arch, outer arch, and there's a third arch, which is the transverse arch along the middle, which maintains this kind of bridge-like shape to the foot like that. This arch often gets lost from wearing shoes, as well as the median arch, and the foot tends to collapse down, often creating bunions, which is where the big toe slides off to one side at an angle, making a prominent bump on the big toe side of the foot. This actually comes from a weakening and overstretching of a muscle along the inner edge of the arch that controls the big toe. And as that muscle weakens, the other muscles that help to hold up the arch become weak. The foot collapses to the middle, and we start to experience different kinds of pain in the foot, whether it's pain in the pads of the foot here, the inner arch, or the ankle. So a couple simple exercises to keep the feet healthy, to open up the four corners of the foot, and to start to work the muscles that maintain the arch as well as the alignment of the toes is a little challenge for the feet. We're going to take the feet forward. Lean back on the hands. We want the feet separated, so you basically have inner and outer heel grounded. So as you work with the foot, you don't let the foot slide in one direction or the other. So you have the feet wide enough to manage this. And the first challenge is simply to lift all of the toes up. Not too high, but you'll feel a little toning along the front of the shin. And as you keep the mound or the ball of the big toe down, it also creates a little lift to the inner arch of the foot. This isn't the best way to create the arch, but it's a good way to start. As we start with the lift of the toes, the first challenge is simply to lengthen the big toe forward and down while keeping the other toes up, and then lift it up again. You notice each time you lift up the big toe, it often goes a little bit sideways, but when we reach the toe out long, like you're trying to reach out to push a button, see how the big toe draws towards the midline and points forward, and you feel an activation of a muscle along the inner edge of the foot. Lift up, the big toes go to the outside, extend forward and down, and you feel a pull of muscle from the big toe all the way back to the heel. As you work with this, you can do this in the morning with your orange juice over breakfast. It starts to strengthen up the arch, and it's actually very effective for reducing bunions in the mound of the big toe by drawing the big toe towards the middle line. If it's hard to get the big toes to cooperate, you can take the feet closer together and even tie a little rubber band around the big toes and let the big toes work together coming down towards the floor. Keeping the other toes lifted just increases the challenge for the muscles of the big toes themselves. That's the main part of the exercise that allows us to stay grounded through the ball of the big toe as you work in that way. Second challenge is to lift all of the toes up, again to lift the arch, and then see if you can just bring the little toe or the last two toes down towards the floor while keeping the big toe and the other toes lifted, just spreading and reaching out to the side. And as you do this action, you may have to help the toes along a little bit It's okay for the last two toes to travel together. They're kind of constructed together. Feel how as you reach out through the little toe, not only are you grounding the mound of the little toe, but you're creating more tone along the outer shin, which helps to stabilize the ankle as well as the knee. So the knee doesn't get twisted quite so much in poses. So this is working as you reach out through the little toes. It's working the outer edge of the foot, the arch at the outer edge of the foot. So that's second challenge, little toe. To put it all together as you lift the toes up, see if you can lift the toes, lift the arches, and then reach just big toe and little toe out and down towards the floor. So you feel a draw through both sides of the foot into the ankle, and you're creating that transverse arch across the middle, lifting up and then spreading, and you're working both sides of the ankles and the arches, getting a real sense of all four corners of the feet while creating this lift up through the center of the feet. To work this allows you to plant the feet very effectively as you do your yoga poses, plus builds up the strength of the feet for everyday activities. It's also good to finish after this work at the top of the foot with a little stretching for the top of the foot to release it. As we wear shoes, the structure of shoes often causes, especially in athletic shoes, for our toes to be lifted slightly, which creates a lot more shortness across the front of the ankle. Becomes even worse if there's any kind of lift or heel to the shoe, which creates the shortening at the top of the foot even as it weakens the ankle. So it's good to counteract that by taking the toes and just working the toes back down. This helps you to draw the fascia or the padding across the mounds of the toes back towards the middle of the foot, where often that padding gets pulled off of the mounds too much. People get pain in the sole of the foot, especially in the pads of the foot, from that padding being drawn away and feeling the bones press into the floor. So this little corrective for the feet, creating a little stretch through the tops of the toes, this is good for preventing hammer toes. Over time, if you get a little snap and pop in the toes, it often shows the toes were a little bit too tense in the other direction. And you can finally finish by creating a little arch in the foot, just grabbing with the hands and rounding to help create that transverse arch to the foot on both feet in that way. So you work with lifting big toe, little toe, both big and little toe, stretching the tops of the feet, opening up the transverse arch, bringing all the energy back towards the center of the foot, and this will ensure that your feet are happy and healthy as you do your yoga practice as well as throughout the day. So thanks for joining me for that tutorial, and hope to see you at YogaUO. Thank you.